Tonight, more calls for a full-scale inquiry into alleged abuse at a St. John's trailer park. That story and...
There's bidding wars and very few houses on the market. It's a tough time to be buying a home in St. John's.
The answer to all of this is increased supply.
The cost of building those houses doesn't match the incomes and affordability of the average person.
I'm Terry Roberts. I'll have that story coming up.
It's the official first day of work for newly minted President Dwan Street. We caught up with her at the FFAW convention in Gander.
Over my 10 years with the FFAW, I've had the privilege of working with a lot of really strong women advocates.
That story's coming up.
These are life-saving measures. This literally can mean the difference between life and death.
Regardless of where we live in Newfoundland and Labrador, everyone deserves the same level of health care.
But that MHA says it isn't so for residents in his district of Terra Nova. Why he and a patient's family worry that a lack of care in Clarenville could have fatal consequences.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Calls for a public inquiry into alleged abuse at a St. John's trailer park are growing louder. The lawyer representing 6 alleged victims of Tony Humby says without a full-scale inquiry, he no longer has faith that his clients will get the answers they want. As Ryan Cook reports, he's not the only one who feels that way, but first a warning, this story does deal with the topic of sexual assault.
There's just still so much that we don't know.
Stephen Barnes represents 6 men who say they were sexually abused by Tony Humby as youths. His clients all want to know how Humby allegedly abused youth for years, despite multiple interactions with police. They plan to sue the RNC and the province.
When you look at the facts of this and the questions that remain, I think a public inquiry is justified.
One of Barnes's clients went to police in 2007 when he was 16. He said Humby had raped him at his trailer on Hussey Drive. According to search warrant documents obtained by CBC Investigates, police interviewed Humby and told him no charges would be laid. Those documents, which are untested in court, allege Humby landed on the RNC's radar at least 9 times before being arrested last year. He's now charged with sexual offences against 11 youths. According to those search warrant documents, many of the alleged victims were involved with the child protection system. When sexual abuse lawyer Lynn Moore heard the story, she had one thought.
So here we go again. You know, we have a system that is not protecting children. And it's a system that's supposed to protect children, but it's just not.
Moore believes a public inquiry is needed to examine how little has improved in the child protection system despite decades of reports and recommendations all the way back to Mount Cashel.
And in the past week, we've had calls from people who are relatives of children in the system who are being sexually assaulted now. You know, like very recently. This is not a problem from the 70s and 80s and 90s. This is a problem today.
Today, in the House of Assembly, Opposition Leader Tony Wakeham joined in the calls.
I asked the Premier, will you do the right thing and call a public inquiry?
Great question.
That prompted this answer from the Justice Minister.
Public inquiry is an option that could be considered in the future. After the legal matters are determined, we don't want to jeopardize that legal future for that.
That's not good enough for Wakeham, who says he's heard from current and former RNC officers who believe an inquiry needs to happen.
I've heard details from these officers who were actively involved in some of the investigations, who have told me that they prepared reports and that these reports need to be read.
Wakeham says he can't say when those reports were filed, but that it cemented his belief that a public inquiry is necessary. Humby's co-accused Bruce Escott is back in court on Friday, where it's expected he'll plead guilty and be sentenced. Humby, meanwhile, is set for trial in March. Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
Real estate on the Avalon is in uncharted territory. There's high demand, but very low inventory. Here and Now's Terry Roberts has that story.
If you're in the market for a house in the St. John's area, be prepared for some competition. We're talking bidding wars. Get this, in the last 6 months, nearly half of every listing has sold for higher than the asking price. Have you ever seen that before?
I've never seen that before, no.
Generally speaking, the market is very robust, inventory is low, and you're going to need to compete for the most part.
Now this is an extreme case, but one house in the city's East End recently went on the market for $309,000. There were 28 bids on that house, and it eventually sold for more than $60,000 above the listing price. It was the hottest October on record in the province for homes sold through the Multiple Listing Service, or MLS. 726 sales, nearly 40% higher than October 2023.
If a property comes on the market now and it's priced where it should be, they're selling very quickly.
And I've had a particular set of clients in my mind here, and we've bid on probably 7 or 8 different properties without being successful.
So what's causing this very tight market? Well, there's a variety of answers to that question. But one veteran realtor told me it's primarily a consequence of something very unique that started during the height of the pandemic. For a few years now, cash flush buyers from other provinces have been flocking to Newfoundland and Labrador like moths to a porch light, selling off their high-priced properties in Ontario and British Columbia, gobbling up homes in this province and paying a premium to get what they want. The result? Local buyers with tighter budgets are squeezed out. Right now, there's a 4-month inventory of homes on the market in St. John's. That means if no other houses were listed after today, the market will be dry by March. Now, traditionally, there's a 9 to 10-month inventory. So if you're in search of shelter, you're likely feeling the pinch. International immigration is swelling the population, and that means apartment vacancy rates are near zero. Rents have spiked. And with mortgage rates cooling, more people are in the market for a house. Housing starts are up by 60% this year, but there's still a serious shortage, and those new homes are more expensive.
It's not quite as simple as just build more houses, because the cost of building those houses doesn't match the incomes and affordability of the average person.
This realtor believes the bubble will eventually burst. The flood of mainlanders has dried up, and so is the big money they were throwing around.
I was getting calls during the peak of COVID every single day. Now I'm getting a handful a month maybe.
As for prices, they're creeping up, about 40% higher than they were 5 years ago. Despite that, Newfoundland and Labrador is still one of the most affordable places in the country to buy a house. The problem is finding the one you want. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, a new survey shows more residents in the capital city are concerned about crime and the cost of living. 600 people took part in a phone survey all about resident satisfaction in St. John's. Mayor Danny Breen says that data will help council shape next month's budget. Breen says people largely believe the city is going in the right direction, though the quality of life score dropped 14% from 4 years ago.
The use of food banks has increased. Inflation has impacted people, so people are feeling the brunt of that. The housing crisis, people are concerned. They're concerned about housing affordability. So those quality of life issues, with other surveys that I've seen throughout the country and other ones locally, this is consistent with the feelings of those.
Well, capping power rates will come at a high cost, $3.5 billion over the next 6 years. That's according to the latest forecast from Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro. A letter sent to the Public Utilities Board says Hydro needs to subsidize rates to the tune of about $500 million a year. And that means millions in export revenues and oil and gas profits, money that would have been paid out to the provincial government, will instead help sponge up Muskrat Falls debt. The province ordered Hydro to cap increases for island customers last May at 2.25% annually until 2030. World Energy GH2 says it's being forced to pivot because the commercial sale of green hydrogen is taking longer to develop than expected. The company has big plans to harness energy from the wind to create hydrogen and ammonia in Western Newfoundland, but now says it's also exploring opportunities to bring large-scale industries to Newfoundland and Labrador. Industries such as data centers aimed at AI companies, green steel manufacturing, and e-fuel production.
We've, approved land to be exclusively used by this company in order to do wind hydrogen based on certain parameters and specifics. If you're going to introduce something, and this is the same for any proponent, if you were to introduce something different into that mix, we would need to look at that and see how that fits into what was approved. And there's a number of different angles to that. So at this point, it's sort of hypothetical. Again, I never want to be seen as sort of dissuading people from talking about investment in the province or, doing cool things here. But we had these projects are one thing, and this is an entirely different conversation, even though they're putting the two together. So at this point, sort of got to wait and see if something comes in. But right now, like I say, all I have on this is literally an online article.
Our team is about holding police accountable, and if there are particular patterns that exist within police agencies involving criminal behavior, we need to know that so we can better serve the people and better deal with these cases.
Well, he's been leading the province's Serious Incident Response Team, or CERT, for 5 years. But now Michael King is stepping away from the job of police watchdog to become a provincial court judge. Judge King has been appointed to the bench in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Stephen Ring, a solicitor with the Justice Department, has taken over as the CERT director on an interim basis. The search for a permanent director will begin in the coming weeks. Well, the FFAW is entering a new era. It welcomed a new executive at its convention this week, ushering in its first female president. Here Now's Troy Turner was there.
If there was ever a divide in membership of the FFAW, there's no sign of it here on the convention floor.
We put all of our adversaries on notice. Work with us. Align yourself with us and be our allies, because you are not going to like working against us.
Newly minted President Dwan Street is not mincing words. She's putting government and processors on notice.
In this era, we do not accept no for an answer. And in this era, we will remain steadfast in the words of our brothers in Burgeo, who displayed that sign proudly that said, "Never again will we beg." We do not beg, we'll demand, and we are going to get.
Street was elected this summer, but officially takes over this week. The first woman to head the FFAW, one of the province's largest unions.
Maybe there's a public perception out there that this industry might be a lot more male-dominated than it actually is. Over my 10 years with the FFAW, I've had the privilege of working with a lot of really strong women advocates, whether they're in the fishing vessel or on the plant floor. And there are a lot more women out there starting to get more active in their union. And of course, on the fishing side of it, we often think that it is very male-dominated. But membership within the certification board when it comes to women has continued to grow. So the face of the industry is changing.
In a union that has seen division in recent years, Street knows there's a lot of work to be done. Having new and different voices around the executive table will help, she says, and communication will be key when dealing with government.
When we work together, that's how things work for the betterment of the province. And if we're just constantly butting heads, that helps nobody.
The first order of business is to discuss the issue of fish pricing with her board and to meet with the Premier on how the union wishes to proceed with regards to the final offer selection versus conventional bargaining system. Troy Turner, CBC News, Gander.
Well, we still have that area of low pressure in place just south of the province. It is going to continue as we head through the next couple of days. If we take a look at the weather on the way headlines, we certainly have those rainfall warnings in place yet again. And we'll talk about how much rain has fallen in the last 24 hours, quite significant in some cases for sure. And is there an end to the fog? We'll talk about all of that because there's a little bit of an end to the fog, especially as we head into tomorrow. I'll get into all the details when I come back in a little bit.
4 nurses were injured on the job this week. That's according to the head of the Registered Nurses Union. Dozens of registered nurses rallied in St. John's today, marching to bring attention to issues like staffing shortages, workplace violence, and burnout.
Solidarity! Today we're celebrating 50 years of the Registered Nurses Union of Newfoundland and Labrador. We're celebrating the wins we've had over the years, and we're talking about the challenges. With over 600 RN vacancies, 81 nurse practitioner vacancies, we're hearing from our members. We have nursing students here at our convention. We hear their concerns with not getting a concrete job offer. They are telling us that they are in the clinical areas, in St. John's in particular, saying the workload is astronomical. They're short-staffed every day. Nurses are just burnt out, and yet they're being told there's no vacancies. We have to fill the gaps in the system, and we have to look at nurse-patient ratios, and we have to address the violence. I am sick of talking about addressing violence in healthcare. We know it's underreported. This past week, 4 of our registered nurses were assaulted in the workplace. One just returned from a workplace injury. She'll probably never get back to the unit again to work. Further injured. Not good enough, not fair, and not fair to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. Someone needs to just action the stuff that we're talking about. We are coming with solutions. They're concrete, they're sustainable, they're obtainable, and they're fiscally responsible for this province. Because what's going on right now, taxpayers of Newfoundland and Labrador are paying for this, and the care that they're getting is not the care they need, nor the care they deserve.
Well, hospital staffing shortages in Clarenville are putting an added strain on patients and their loved ones. That's according to an area MHA and a family who says a lack of accessible care could have deadly consequences. Here now's Jenna Head has that story.
Clarenville has a hospital. But chances are, if you're going into labor or you're experiencing a heart attack, you may not be treated at Dr. G.B. Cross Memorial Hospital.
There are staffing shortages in pediatrics, and the hospital has been operating without an internal medicine specialist. The area's MHA warned the province of that in July, and months later, there's been little change.
I asked the minister specifically, what does he think will happen if someone gets very sick very fast?
Maybe the solution here is locums, and we'll look at that with NLHS.
These are life-saving measures. This literally can mean the difference between life and death for residents that Clarenville Hospital service.
It's a stressful situation for families like Jean Butts of Bloomfield. Her sister had a heart attack and was treated at the Clarenville Hospital for 5 weeks. In the event of an emergency, her sister wanted to be resuscitated, but that couldn't happen in Clarenville.
If someone were to go for and whatever reason needed full resuscitation, it's not there. I mean, that's a scary thought for all of us. They were going to transport her to the Burin Peninsula while she was awaiting her surgery. And that was, for her and us, it was devastating.
She says her sister was ultimately moved to St. John's, but only because the family pushed for it. Parrott says it's not fair that some patients in the province are being shortchanged in this way.
With the lack of internal medicine, the lack of treatment, certainly the lack of pediatricians, everybody is vulnerable, and more specifically in rural Newfoundland. And again, I can't reiterate how important it is. Regardless of where we live in Newfoundland and Labrador, everyone deserves the same level of health care.
The health authority maintains that pediatric services are always available in Clarenville. But sources familiar with the situation tell CBC there are plans to fly someone from Alberta bi-weekly to assist in the hospital's pediatric unit.
Meanwhile, the province is offering $100,000 bonuses to internal medicine specialists who will commit to working in Clarenville for 1 year. Jenna Head, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, this is the design for a new sculpture going up in Galway. It's a tribute to Team Gujju, created by renowned artist Morgan MacDonald. The structure will find a home in front of the new multiplex that's planned for the St. John's subdivision. Well, Ashley, at this point, you must be feeling like a broken record because it feels like every day it's just rain, drizzle, and fog. And it was pouring pretty hard today for a while.
Yeah, the rain definitely moved back in. We had a little bit of a reprieve from that over the last day or so, but yeah, it's back. Most of November, actually, we've recorded some rain in St. John's. Let's take a look at the numbers just from today. We are far away from the record at this point, but St. John's has recorded another 37.7 millimeters of rain. That was what I just grabbed before I came on air here, but Bonavista, 64.1 millimeters of rain. So actually the Bonavista Peninsula has seen the majority of it. A lot less as you head towards Gander, even St. Anthony, but Mary's Harbor has picked up about 22 millimeters of rain. So this is generally going to continue. We've got an area of low pressure to the south and some moisture to the east as well. That's why we're seeing all of this rain. If I zoom in a little bit, you can see some of the heavier showers affecting the Bonavista Peninsula earlier today. Most of the heavy rain has pretty much tapered off. The heaviest rain has tapered off, but we are still seeing some moderate rain, and that will generally continue as we head through tonight. But the visibility has certainly changed, especially for Gander. We're getting more of a northerly flow, and that is changing the visibility. Still socked in fog, though, in St. John, 0.4 kilometers, about 400 meters, and that's where we've been pretty much all day. If we take a look at the fog forecast, though, it will continue through tomorrow morning, and then the winds shift. We'll see a more northerly flow, and that is going to clear things out, at least for the time being. So we'll start to see some of that fog dissipate through central areas as we head towards the afternoon. And then later in the evening, we will eventually see some of that fog lift as well. Now, it will likely make a return, but for now, we'll take the little bit of a break that we're going to get. Those rainfall warnings are still very much in place. Terra Nova, Clarenville, Bonavista, the Northern Avalon, all still under that rainfall warning. Same thing for the Northern Peninsula East and Mary's Harbor. Now, there is some more rain expected to fall as we head through tonight. Somewhere between 10 to as much as 20 millimeters of rain possible. There are pockets that could see 20 to 30 still to fall through the overnight tonight and then into tomorrow afternoon. And then a little bit more up across the southeastern portions of Labrador, and same thing for the Northern Peninsula. So closer to 30 to 50 is certainly possible. Now, let's take a look at what's going to happen as we look towards the overnight for Labrador. Still looking at a little bit of a wintry mix now, closer in the upper levels. This is likely falling in some flurries, but otherwise likely some showers because temperatures are still quite mild. Certainly not the case, though, in Lab West, where you're still looking at the potential for some flurries overnight with your temperatures hovering around -2. And again, that temperature around 2 degrees for Happy Valley Goose Bay does mean the upper levels may be seeing those flurries, otherwise showers. And then the island portion of the province, anywhere from 4 to about 10 degrees, the warmest along the south, away from that onshore flow. But those winds will still be a little brisk tonight. Northeasterlies between 50 to as much as 60 kilometers per hour. As we head into tomorrow, that rain through the overnight will eventually taper to some showers. But it looks like some more rain will move in as we head into the afternoon hours on Thursday, especially along the northeast coast. And eventually we will see the rain end as well for southeastern portions of Labrador. Still in that onshore flow, though, still looking at that potential for some flurries in Lab West, the north coast as well. Areas like Makovic may see a few flurries tomorrow afternoon. But again, RDF the story across the island. And but like I said a little bit earlier, the good news is we will see a little bit of relief from the dense fog that we've been seeing. Areas like St. John's and Gander have seen nearly triple the amount of hours that we would typically see in November for dense fog. So here's a look at the temperatures for tomorrow. Now they're going to be a little cooler, somewhere between 6 to as much as 8 degrees. But along the south coast, you're looking at temperatures a little warmer than that, 10 to about 12 degrees. Port aux Basques, You may see a few peaks of sun in the mix. It won't be sunny, but you may see a few peaks of sun. Lab West still looking at flurries. Temperatures hovering around 0, maybe +1, and easterlies will be gusting around 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. North Coast still seeing flurries, and the southeast you're going to hang on to temperatures around 3 or 4 degrees, but those northeasterlies will be anywhere from about 20 to 40 kilometers per hour with, again, rain the first part of the day, but improving as the day goes on. I'll get into the long-range forecast a little later.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, apparently 2024 was a pivotal year for tourism. That's according to Minister Steve Crocker. He announced today that this year, Newfoundland and Labrador surpassed pre-pandemic tourism figures. Air service is up, he says, 21% from the year before. And for several months, more people have been flying into the province, surpassing levels reached in 2019. The minister says it's all part of the province's 5-year recovery plan in the wake of COVID-19.
The first thing I said to her was, I wish my students were here with me, because the award belongs to them as much as it does to me, because, we did the work together.
Well, that's how Joanne Broaders, a Gambo teacher, reacted to news she'd be receiving Canada's most prestigious history prize. It's for her work with her grade 8 class, discovering and studying a local Mi'kmaq cemetery. Our conversation coming up after the break. Well, a grade 8 teacher in Gambo is receiving Canada's top honour in the field of history and heritage, a Governor General's Award. Now, you may have seen Joanne Broaders featured in this episode of Land and Sea last year. She led a unique project to uncover the history of a little-known Mi'kmaq cemetery in the community. She and her students visited 13 unmarked graves and began a mission to learn about the people buried there. Joanne Broaders joins us now from Winnipeg, where the awards ceremony is taking place. Thank you so much for being here, and congratulations.
You're quite welcome, and thank you very much, Carolyn.
So can you tell us more about this project in the cemetery? How did you find out about the Mi'kmaq cemetery, and why did you want your class to learn more about it?
Well, I've been teaching in Gambo since 2001, and I had heard people refer to the cemetery, not a lot. So I knew it was in the community. And when I was teaching the grade 8 social studies, which incorporates Indigenous history of Newfoundland and Labrador, I suggested that we take a trip to the cemetery. And of course, students are generally always interested in doing field trips just to get out of the classroom, a little bit of a change for them and for the teacher as well. So we made a field trip to the cemetery. We'll walk there. We were honored to be there for certain, and we felt great peace with being there, but there was no visible written history there. So we wanted to add to the history of that cemetery, and I guess that's where the collaborative part of the project began. We contacted Chief Michelle Joe from Conn River, and also Fred Jeans from the Heritage Society in Gambo. So with them, we went back to the classroom and started to uncover and dig to find the history of that cemetery and the people buried there.
And I noticed one nice thing in the Land and Sea episode when the students were there, and you asked the students to just stop and take a moment, and you got each of them to stand next to one of the graves. And I'm just curious, why did you ask them to do that?
I guess cemeteries, they belong to history, and history is one of our best teachers for sure. It's nice to give back respect to the people that are buried in any cemetery. And I felt in this cemetery in particular, because there was no written history there, that we had a little bit of extra respect to give to them and a little bit of a job ahead of us. And, just last week or a couple of weeks ago, I took another group of students down there and we did the same thing. We stood in a circle, had students at each grave, and we paid our respects to the people buried there.
And what was the level of interest from the students throughout this project? What did they say to you about it? How interested were they in learning the identities of the people buried in that cemetery?
The students at Smallwood Academy are a fantastic group of students. They're very engaged, I have to say. So when we took on that project with the grade 8 class, a beautiful group of students, they were 100% engaged. They were as engaged as I was in, figuring out who was there and trying to find a way to honor them. So, I've been very fortunate as a teacher to to have great students with me through the years. And it's because of them that you can do projects like this.
And you reached out to the Heritage Committee you mentioned and Michelle Joe. What more did you discover about the cemetery?
Fred Jeans from the Heritage Committee in Gambo was fantastic. His knowledge of the Mi'kmaq people in Gambo and of that cemetery was, really good. And he came to our class and he shared everything that he knew with the students. And then, of course, Chief Joe was just wonderful when he joined us in that collaborative learning. He was probably in some ways more invested than us because we discovered that it was his relatives that were buried there. So we were all emotionally invested, and probably Chief Joe more so than anyone. So it was a project that had a lot of historical significance, but also a lot of, it had a huge emotional impact, I think, on everyone.
How did you and your students react when you found out that you would be receiving this award?
At first for me, when I received the phone call, I have to say I was very emotional. The lady that called me, I shed a couple of tears in a way. And I think the first thing I said to her was, I wish my students were here with me, because the award belongs to them as much as it does to me, because, we did the work together. And, really, I think the best things that happen in a classroom is work that's done by the whole group. It's never just by a teacher. So it was very emotional for all of us. They were quite excited. They clapped, and not for me, just for the project in general, for the learning that happened. And there's a lot of great things happening, like I said, in all classrooms, and sometimes it doesn't get recognized. So when you do get recognized, it's quite it's quite humbling and quite a proud moment for sure.
Well, Joanne Broaders, congratulations once again on receiving this award, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. I'm honored to be speaking with you, and take good care.
The U.S. closed its embassy in Ukraine today, citing the threat of air attacks. Canada and several other countries did as well. It came amid Russia's anger over loosening restrictions on Ukraine's use of U.S. weapons. Warning sirens sounded, but no attack materialized. Yesterday, Ukraine struck well inside Russia with U.S. missiles. Until now, Washington prohibited their use in such attacks. Moscow calls the reversal a serious escalation. High winds continued today, and crews are still working to restore power to thousands after what meteorologists call a bomb cyclone hit BC's southern coast. The CBC's Lindsay Duncombe reports.
This is what it was like in Tawasin this morning. Powerful winds toppling trees, crushing power lines, causing problems throughout the grid. Like this power surge in downtown Vancouver. At its peak, more than 270,000 households in British Columbia lost power. Hydro crews worked through the night restoring power, but the work, especially on Vancouver Island, will take time.
Without question, given the intensity of the storm, which we could all hear and see, I suspect it's going to be a while before things are back to quote-unquote normal in Nanaimo.
Morning ferry service was canceled and some schools closed for the day. This kind of storm is called a bomb cyclone because of how quickly the pressure drops. And the worst of it wasn't anywhere near land. An island off the coast of Vancouver Island recorded wind speeds of 170 kilometers an hour.
Offshore, this is one of the most intense storms we've ever had, parked off the coast. Fortunately, it's far enough offshore that we're not going to be decimated by it. If this was closer, this would cause billions of dollars of damage. Yeah, it's offshore enough that we're not going to get that.
In Washington state, the storm was deadly. 2 women were killed by falling trees, one inside a home, another in a homeless encampment.
The worst has passed, but gusty winds are expected to continue today, especially on Vancouver Island. That will complicate work to get the power back up and running. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, we have new information about the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic, thanks in part to a Saskatchewan research team. It helped analyze hundreds of samples from Wuhan, China, and found new evidence the virus originated in animals and not in a lab. Alexander Silberman has the details.
Angie Rasmussen is on the hunt, searching for the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic. Inside Canada's Centre for Pandemic Research in Saskatoon, she analyzed hundreds of genetic samples collected from a market in Wuhan, China in January 2020. Working with an international team of scientists, Rasmussen's study identified exactly which wild animals were in the same place as the virus, which she argues is strong but circumstantial evidence of how the pandemic began.
It's very difficult to explain the evidence that we have any other way besides that virus was brought there with those live animals, and it spilled over twice, actually, into the human population at the market.
The study doesn't definitively prove the animals in those areas were infected, but some of them, like raccoon dogs, are known carriers of coronaviruses. Those findings, valuable insight for infectious disease specialists.
If you don't know the why, history tends to repeat itself in the worst ways.
Despite mounting evidence suggesting the virus jumped from animals to people in the market, many still believe it was accidentally leaked from a lab. Rasmussen's research is drawing online attacks from conspiracy groups.
We're accused of conducting a propaganda campaign, essentially, to cover up the real story of a lab leak. But that's simply not true.
Not true that Rasmussen is part of a cover-up operation, but that type of narrative spreads easily, according to this misinformation expert.
If you are a scientist that hasn't fully embraced the lab leak theory, you're the enemy, right? And that's how it's being framed now. And unfortunately, that strategy really seems to work.
As for Rasmussen, she is now testing to see which animals were possible hosts for the virus, research that could help prepare for a future pandemic response. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Well, the St. John's International Women's Film Festival celebrated its 35th year this fall, and local performers and supporters showed up in style to walk the red carpet in St. John's, and the CBC Creator Network was there to ask people about their festival fashion.
Would you like to tell us about your outfit today?
My outfit? Okay, well, this is a vintage leather jacket given to me by my friend Andrea, who I love. It's got some cute things going on here, yeah. This shirt I just bought in Montreal. These pants my daughter gave me.
I really like it.
And she gave me the boots too.
Ooh, she got really nice taste. It fits you so well with your hair color.
Thank you.
This is Levi's. And I love my Lululemon pants. They're very breathable, very, very practical. And speaking of practical, Blundstones, it's Newfoundland. You know what it is out here.
What about accessories?
Oh, yeah. So these earrings are GLD. And this chain, one of my friends, oh, the mic's there, isn't it? One of my friends gave this to me. One of my really good friends, his name is Yusuf. So it's kind of a piece that symbolizes friendship for me.
Would you like to do a 360 to let the camera see your back?
For sure.
Ooh! Wow, that's so cool. What is the fashion trend you're looking forward to try in this fall or winter?
To be honest, I'd probably be more of the same. Like, I think the oversized baggy clothing is really what's it for me right now.
Yeah.
So that's probably what I'll be looking to do more of. I don't know how to work when it starts snowing, but I'll figure it out.
I see you also have really cool accessory like the glasses and the chain.
Yeah, the chain was a gift from my parents when I graduated, so I wear it with me all the time. The glasses are because I can't see. Nobody believes me, but they're prescription.
This little purse, though, was gifted to me by a friend in Greece, and it is made from some kind of I hope it's synthetic, but it looks like a little bit like goat's skin. But it was, yeah, I really like it. It's like little teddy bears.
They have different designs.
They have little designs, yeah. They have like little leopard patterns or different colors. And yeah, and every time I wear it, it reminds me of my friend who gave it to me.
Sweet.
It's kind of like everyone needs to have a little black dress. This is like my little black purse that I have that goes with everything.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite dresses. I bought it at Posy Row, which is on Duckworth Street. And it's kind of my go-to whenever I want to be a little bit fancy, but also comfortable, because it's like one slip-on, it's adjustable, kind of pair with anything if I want to be casual, I want to be dressed up. And so when I knew about the event for today, I was like, this is what I'm going to wear, because it's fall and it's light enough. And yeah, it's kind of versatile. So, and then these are not my shoes, these are my friend's shoes, where they're like kind of like the dressiest boots I can do that aren't all like scuffed and salt stained. And yeah.
Which is your favorite piece of outfit?
I think it's my leather jacket. It's a staple. I love it. It goes with everything. Summer, fall, winter, everything.
I love all the leather jackets.
Yes.
How did your outfit make you feel today?
Like a superstar.
Ooh, would you like to do a superstar walk?
I mean, why not? Thank you.
They're having a bit of fun there. And Ashley, speaking of clothing, there is definitely one garment that people cannot leave their house without these days.
A rain jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's going to continue for a while.
For a little bit, yeah. We're going to see a little bit of relief from the fog, at least a little later tomorrow, which will be nice. But let's take a look at the forecast as we head into our Friday, into the weekend. So another round of showers, certainly possible tomorrow afternoon. We're going to turn more northerly. That's what's going to help with the fog as we head into the overnight. But by Friday morning, still hanging on to the chance of some showers. For most of the northeast coast. At least we'll say goodbye to the periods of rain into and through the day, but Up across Labrador, you're generally quiet weather. You're actually going to see some sunshine in some cases, especially for the north and the west, and just some cloudy periods expected through central areas of Labrador. Now, towards the coast, you're still going to hang on to the chance of some showers or drizzle through the day, but we'll say goodbye to the rain. 2 degrees will be your afternoon high. And across the island, temperatures are going to dip a little bit as we head into Friday, only topping out somewhere between 3 to 5 degrees, south coast as well. Generally sitting around 8 degrees, but you're going to hang on to that chance of some showers. Later in the day, though, for the south coast, Port aux Basques, actually, you may see some sunshine in the afternoon as well for your Friday. As we head into Saturday, we are looking at our next weather maker moving in. This one is going to bring some light snow to portions of Labrador, especially towards the afternoon and evening, and then some more rain across the island as well. So we will see some periods of rain develop, especially in the afternoon and then later on in the evening as we head towards the northern peninsula. And eventually some snow will track north as well towards Happy Valley, Goose Bay. But for most of the afternoon, you should just be sitting under some cloudy skies with a few peaks of sun in the mix there as well. Daytime high hovering around 3 degrees, cooler towards the west, and we're starting to creep back up a little bit anyway across the island. 3 to about 8 degrees will be the daytime highs on Saturday. Now, this area of low pressure is going to continue to be our weather maker as we head into the weekend, into Sunday as well. So again, mentioned yesterday, the Christmas parade on Sunday, still looking like we may see some sunshine in the afternoon. Hopefully that times out. And temperatures still looking like they're going to warm up. We should be hovering around 11 degrees through the day on Sunday. Monday, we will return back down to single digits, and also the periods of rain will, or at least some showers, will move back in for our Monday. For central Newfoundland, a similar forecast with a temperature around 9 degrees for your Sunday. Monday looking at about 6 with some showers. Long range forecast for western Newfoundland looking pretty gray with about 6 or 7 degrees, or 5 or 6 degrees rather. For Labrador overall, wintry mix both Sunday and Monday. And for western Labrador, periods of snow in the forecast with temperatures hovering between 0 and about -1 as our daytime highs. Our weather photo in Calls Harbour. It has been a foggy and windy, or rainy, I guess, day, and there's some sea foam there forming. Thank you to Gerald for that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah.
If you have any weather photos that you'd like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
It's like, just made me think of the blob story.
It kind of looks like that,
Kind of
doesn't
looks
it?
like a big blob.
Yeah, a little bit of a big blob.
But looking good for the Santa Claus parade
For
on
now.
Sunday.
Yeah,
For now,
I'm keeping that sunshine in the forecast because it's one thing to look forward to. I may have to break the news that it's not going to be so nice later in the week. We'll see.
It doesn't
We'll see what
rain.
happens.
Yeah, at least it'll be mild. It was really cold last year.
Yes, and flurries in the past, which I mean feels more Christmassy for sure. So it'll be nice. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us. Good night.
Good night.